Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic Last Known Classics. This is episode number 2311 and Doubleshot number 2205. First up, we're discussing more Masterworks, The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 18, which is discussing issues 181 to 182 and the 12th annual. These issues are quite interesting to say the least. Some of them do wrap up. One wraps up a long-running plot that we're going for quite a while. Yes. Now, the main writer for these issues is Marv Wolfman. Yeah, he pretty much writes it from... Excuse me. That's better. He mostly writes it from basically just 82 and 92. He does co-write it with issue 87 with Jim Starlin. 181 is done by Bill Mantlo. Russ Audrew is your artist for 182 and 85. For the first artist, it's Sal Buscema. For, let's see. Excuse me. You have Keith Pollard issues 86, 88, 91, 92. Jim Starlin does 87. John Byrne does 89 and 90. The first issue is basic. Now, by the way, the book covers the period of... Excuse me. Covers period of June 9th. Okay, I forgot the annual was a reference. My mistake. Okay, so the book covers from June 1978 and concludes in May of 1979, which means, yes, the very next line will get into the 80s. Now, for these issues, now, 181 is, simply put, basically a retelling of Spider-Man's origin story. That's most of what it is. It's mostly a recap of the last basically the last 16 years of the book. Now, in issues 182, 183, we have Return of the Rocket Racer and the debut of Big Wheel. Yes, Rocket Racer, who is described, I've read online as one of the worst characters Marvel's ever introduced, but it was late 70s. What do you expect? Yep, he returns here and Big Willie gets killed, and Big Willie gets supposedly killed off, but he comes back later. Then we have issue 184, which debut character known as the White Dragon. Yes, basically a Chinese gangster who basically Spider-Man takes on for like one issue. Mm-hmm. Yes, and then 185, of course, it actually also deals with him. Yeah, we have, what you demanded, the graduation Peter Parker. But no, it's a lie. It's like he goes for his graduation because he thinks he completed his diploma. And like he gets there like, nope, not here. Like, what? Well, what's going on? And of course, Gibbs' outfit doesn't fit him. And then they skip his name. And then he talks to you, he's like, Professor, what's going on? I thought I got everything. And it turns out, nope, he did not. He missed one credit. And you're thinking, what did he miss? A gym credit. For a diploma in science. My only guess is the reason that Marvel did this, like basically just write out the college stuff for a while. Give it a break. Because they've been going to this point for over 100 issues. He probably felt as though it needed to basically be put to rest for a while. That's my guess, but he didn't graduate. That was a big fat lie. Yep. And then 186. Okay, this is sort of a big character moment for this one. Basically, he's contacted by D.A. Blake Tower, a character from Daredevil Comics, who, by the way, was still D.A. in the 90s when he decided to put Peter Parker on trial for murder, even though the evidence was very flimsy at best. And the fact that the way the trial went was like, call Mary Jane Watson and no basically response from the attorney. Now, last time I checked, that is actually against the rules. And Blake Tower was ready to be a complete idiot in that story. And it was played by Lankara. Yeah, and I agree with him about this, that they should have basically had somebody from Law and Order, or at least someone watching it at a full trial. Like, they actually have a better version of a trial in comic books thanks to the trial of the White Tiger. They actually got correct witnesses. They did something the prosecutor was supposed to do. Of course, they tried to examine the tiger amulet. It's like, there's nothing there, just a piece of jewelry. And Reed Richards like, nope, this is magic. And Emery confirms it. And the fact that apparently because of something he said, of course, it was all done via the fact he was vigilante, not the fact he was Hispanic. And of course, Daredevil got the real murderer basically to be, well, confessing it in the story. That's why Bendis' way of basically writing out the original White Tiger. But, in the case of 186, excuse me, this one basically, there was a couple lingering charges against Spider-Man. One was for, get this, the apparent death of Norman Osborn. Yep. He had been wanting questioning for a while. He was cleared out a while ago. And he was also wanting questioning for the death of George Stacy. And thanks to evidence gathered, apparently it was just that recently, he was cleared of that. So basically he was cleared of those two charges. Yeah, press conference. Yeah, basically you have the Chameleon show up, try to ruin his reputation, who was wearing this weird outfit in the story. And he gets arrested. And he's not seen for a while. 187 features a team up with Captain America. And it deals with Electro. Well, he's a minor threat in the story. Where basically Cap keeps, well, Spider-Man away from this area because of a plague. Yes, a plague, which was cured, no problem. And of course, it's a S.H.I.E.L.D. story. It's like, what was the point of this story featuring Electro? 188 features the return of Jigsaw. First time issue 162. And no Punisher in sight. This is just a one-off return of the character. And then here's the strange thing about Jigsaw. No one sees this guy again until the Punisher miniseries released back in 1986. So he returned for about 6 years. Yep. 188 and 189 is a return of Man-Wolf. Yep. Yeah, John Jameson is back as Man-Wolf in these stories. Yep, and at the end of this two-parter, Spider-Man is accused of murdering John Jameson. Yeah, and then 191 is simply put basically, well, we deal with the end of Spencer Smythe. Yes, and of course you have, well, Jameson and Spider-Man handcuffed together, which they actually adapt this for an episode of the Spider-Man animated series from 90. Yeah, they adapt this. And of course, Jameson wanted to put an article in paper basically blatantly accusing Spider-Man of murdering his son. And according to Robbie, he's like, nope, I'm not going to publish that because there's no evidence to support it. Which, that is 100% completely true. Sadly, 192 is the end of Spencer Smythe. Yep. Yeah, and, well, yeah, here's the thing about Spencer. He managed to stay dead for a long period of time. Well, they briefly mentioned him in issue 650 in a flashback. Yeah, it was basically, a flashback story, and he was brought back in Clone Conspiracy. And he survived. Yeah, and the most recent thing involving him was an Infinity comic where he popped up for a few issues. Spine-tingling Spider-Man, which they actually recently announced this is going to be adapted for an act. They're going to reprint this in a actual comic book series. Like, yeah. They're going to print this in a miniseries known as, well, Spine-Tingling Spider-Man, which will be released in, well, it's only going to be like a limited series. Don't know how long it's going to last for, but it's interesting what they're going to do, but at least they're going to have Spencer return. Yeah, oh yeah, and the reason why Spencer died, because all the stuff related to Spider Slayers. Excuse me. His son, Alistair, will not make his debut for another several years. Yeah, he would make his debut to annual 19 of the book. Yeah, and now as for 12 is a reprint. Yeah, the spot you put in the book is just a reprint. It's a reprint of issue 119, and 120 Amazing Spider-Man. Thinking, really? So after 2 new annuals, we have a reprint. Reasons. I don't really know the reason why they decided to do this for, but they did. Yeah. But what rating do I give this book? I give this book basically a 10 out of 10. It's an excellent book. It does continue the awesomeness that is basically Spider-Man. Well, what we know is good Spider-Man stories. Next up we have is Masterworks Uncanny X-Men Volume 11. And let me check this to be sure, because I think I did cover... Let's see. Oh, I thought I did cover that. Okay, so I did not cover volume 10 yet. So let's go ahead and do volume 10, because I thought I covered this book. Nope, I did not. So we're gonna go straight to volume 10. We'll do basically 11 there point. So here we go, volume 10. Because I think I did cover this line at some point, but maybe I missed it. It is possible I may have missed it. So let's just kind of go ahead and talk about this one. Now, the Magic miniseries, not going to discuss that because I've discussed already in an individual trade. This main book covers issues of Uncanny X-Men issues 176 to 188. Written by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. Well, actually... Chris covered this main issues, Barry Windsor with co-writes issue 186. John Romita Jr. This actually was artwork more tall, but it is nowadays. This issue 176, 185, 188. 186 up by Barry Windsor-Smith. Yep. Now, the main issues of the book itself covers the period of December 1983 and concludes in September 1984. So basically, this book, I'm almost halfway through the 1980s when it comes to Uncanny X-Men. Basically, Amazing Spider-Man will cover the 80s, the very next volume. Alright, now, in the case of these issues, basically, you have Scott and Madeline on their honeymoon. Yes, their honeymoon was Dragon Horse. We have Wolverine confronting his ex-fiance over... Well, the fact they're going to get married, it was all mastermind stuff. They kind of resolved that here-ish. And, of course, they have various other things happening here in this issue. We also have the start of a storyline known as the first Morlocks storyline, where Calypso, yes, Calypso, a woman who got an eye patch, which in later years she got a second evolution where she got tentacles. Yes, a woman. Basically, this begins a 2-part storyline involving the Morlocks, which you might be asking, was this adapted for the X-Men animated series? The answer is yes. They did make some changes, like they swapped out like one character, but it simply was the same story. So yeah, that part was basically the same. The whole thing with the Morlocks, because it involves Kitty, well, kind of involves Kitty Pryde-ish. So basically, having this issue, we have Arcade working with Mystique in this issue. The whole thing with that. We have Xavier with Leandra, who is basically, well, still in love and not married yet. Yeah, Morty with the Blob, and then basically Peter Chap and Stone. Yeah, Morlock stuff gets a little bit after this one. And then 188 is basically double issue for no reason. Well, I'll get to that. And then 179, where Kitty Pryde is basically left wounded. So she is taken to the Morlocks, wearing this dress is basically shredded. And the reason? To get married to, I think it's Caliban. Yes, so she gets kidnapped, and she's not the only one. Of course, the X are looking for her, obviously. Yep. And also the fact that it's also revealed that Calypso, well, and of course we have Storm wearing a Mohawk look. So this, I thought it was after she lost her powers, but here she is before she briefly lost her powers. That, well, maybe not sure. So then, of course, basically we deal with the whole stuff with that. Oh yeah, this is when she's doesn't have powers. So, oh yeah, it's basically sort of follow up. I'm sorry about that. That was my mistake. So, they birth the wedding. Of course, Kitty probably goes walks off, and then 180, excuse me. You are thinking, does Storm find out who actually was responsible to take her powers? Well, not really. Not at this point, anyway. She just found it later. In a double-sized issue. Yep. Oh, yeah, and also in that story, in the case of the original story itself, this actually was a follow-up on my story. Because that was after FX animated series. They swapped the Angel with Cyclops. Yeah, that was the only difference between that story and this one. The only similarity, the only same thing we had both is Calypso fighting Storm, and then Storm take over the leadership of the Morlocks, which she has for quite a while. And of course, Kitty Pryde reconciles with Storm, and then basically she meets with Emma Frost. Then we have a dragon issue. Guess all dragons. Yeah, then we have the Mutant Fear Control Act, which, oh boy, this thing. This was something that one person theorized was basically like what the Super Extraction became 20 years later, but 10 times worse. So then basically 182, just a Rogue issue. Yes, it's all about Rogue in this issue. Just basically a single story for her, which is quite nice. And then 183 is simply put, Colossus versus Juggernaut in a bar fight. Yep. And yeah, Rogue declared public enemy because of stuff related to Forge. So, yeah. And Rogue briefly takes Storm's powers, but she's knocked out. But she is stopped. And then we have 186, the life-death story. Yes, 186, a double-sized issue where Storm spends a period of time with Forge. Yes. Now, okay, then we see Forge's apartment, which is one of the most weirdly designed things I've ever seen. Now, Forge is in love with Storm. As a matter of fact, he's never gotten over Storm after this one issue. It's basically a love story of their romance throughout this one issue. It's not like a 20-page story. Oh, this is basically a double-sized issue. Oh, yeah, and it's also in the story that that Storm finds out that Forge made the weapon, took away her powers, and then she breaks up with him at the end of the issue. Surprisingly, they do a follow-up after this one. Then, of course, Storm goes out in the rain in issue 187. Yeah. Which gets reunited to the X-Men, and of course, basically where... And then we deal with an appearance by, well, stuff. It's more like a Forge storyline afterwards. For about a couple issues. Then Storm's back with the X-Men. Yeah. And I think eventually she gets her powers back. I think I missed something here, didn't I? So basically, with the last issue of this book, like, she gets her powers back and joins the X-Men. I think it was like 187. Well, it's called the Wrath War storyline, which it deals with Wrath, the race, anyways. Yep. Of course, Ray Thomas joins in issue 188. I think that's it. I'll look at it again about that one. Oh, it actually concludes. My mistake. It does not conclude in 1984. Includes in December 1984. Yeah, my apologies about that. Yeah. But yeah, still good stuff here. Give this book roughly a 10 out of 10. And next time I discuss this book, it will be volume 11. I thought I covered this book already. My mistake. So basically, I should point something out though about volume 12. This one I will cover all but the last two issues of that one. 13 was skipped because I've covered the whole thing in that one. And the last book I have in here was basically volume, I think it's 14. I'll cover most of it. It goes to 219, but about half I've covered already. So basically, you'll find how I'm going to cover it by then, okay? Next video. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and watch Machuca Tensei. Get it done with tonight, okay? Next video.